would love to hear your Saturn return stories down below. If you have lived through 1 or 2 or 3 even, like, let me know how they go, because before we get into my story, I do want to, in typical Carly fashion, I want to lay down a little bit of a framework of what even are Saturn returns, because I think whether you think about it in terms of it's bringing bad things or good things, there's a pretty objective framework at play, and that is that Saturn returns happen every 29.5 years. That's how long it takes for Saturn to loop all the way around the sun, make one full orbit, and go all the way through the zodiac wheel then, and return to where it was when you were born. So for example, this is where my Saturn is, and you can see that the transit Saturn is the green one on the outside, is exactly where my Saturn is, and it took 29.5 years for that to happen, and the exact date of it I've also put on the screen here for you. So that's just an example of what you're looking for. So that means that between ages 29 and 30, like literally that whole year typically, and then also you would have another one at age 59, and then you have another one at age 88.5. So those would be the 3 that, if you have a nice long life, that those would be your 3 initiations. That's what that Saturn return is doing. It's bringing the end of the one phase that you were currently living, and it is initiating you, or it's having those growing pains of moving you out of that life phase into the next life phase. So as an example, one of the references that I really enjoyed learning about Saturn returns was in Stephen Forrest's Book of Earth, and he goes through all of the different Earth archetypes, and Saturn is included as the ruler of Capricorn. And he devotes an entire chapter to Saturn returns specifically because they are so significant as turning points in the evolution of our development throughout our life. He's an evolutionary astrologer, and he claims that he's not looking at it in terms of like evolution, like we came from primates. He's looking at it like, you know, day to day in our life, we evolve. So like, let's say you have a really intense, difficult conversation with your partner, but through that conversation, you open this new territory of open, clear communication within the relationship. That's growth. That's evolution of who you are and how you're showing up in the world. So opportunities for evolution happen every day. And the phases of our life, as he describes them, like the first 29.5 years, he claims, is childhood. Most of us think we have to grow up when we turn 18, or that we automatically do. And in astrology terms, we really don't. Not until we're almost to our 30th birthday have we really explored and dreamed and tried to conceive of basically what is the dream version of why you came into this world. When we're kids, like little kids, you know, we have a really easy time dreaming, and he gives a perfect example of like someone who wants to be a movie star when they're really, really young. And then as they grow up a little bit, they decide they want to be an actor. That's more how they're thinking about it, how they're relating to it. And their acting career, they got a couple good gigs, but mostly they met like a lighting director on set at one of their jobs, and they really hit it off with this person, felt very resonant with them, and it became a mentor relationship where this lighting director professional taught them the trade of lighting on sets. And so now, by the time they get to their second Saturn return, they are a lighting professional, and that path that they met their soulmate or their significant other, their life partner, on set, they were the lighting director, or the person in the story showed up as the lighting director, and the other person was some other like set design person on that same set. And so had they not taken that path of kind of abandoning the original dream of being a movie star or an actor, it evolved into something completely different, but put them on the right path at the right time. And so that's kind of how that childhood phase works. It's like those dreams, they don't have to be tethered to reality to work. They have to point you in the right direction. And then the initiation of your first Saturn return is really where we initiate into that second phase of life. So basically age 30 through 59. And that's where we have a reality check of sorts. Like in midlife, our brain literally changes to where we are not as dream oriented as we were before, especially towards like fantasy type dreaming, where we see no realistic path towards that dream. I would call that a fantasy. If you have a dream and you have a specific path to get there, or you have an idea of how to get there, that's a goal. So in midlife, we become more goal-oriented, less fantasy-oriented, I guess is how I could say that. And then last, well, I guess not last because it depends on how long you live, but when you go through your second Saturn return, so at age 59, that initiation is taking you out of kind of like the heaviest phase of life, being that midlife reality version. And it's basically shedding a lot of the common concerns of midlife about making the money and raising the kids and being responsible and like all of the things that you're trying to accomplish in your life. By the time you're 60, 59, mostly you've done a lot of that. And so that elderhood phase is that next phase where you mostly aren't focused on gathering resources and experiences. You're mostly focused on giving. So you want to give away what you've gathered. You want to teach what you've learned. If you've made a lot of money, you want to share it. You want to, get into philanthropy. You want to give it to your family for them to do what they need to do with it. All of these ways where you're giving away what you've worked in that midlife section to build. And then from there, if you make it to age 88 and you go through that next initiation into the last, for most people, the last phase is really, again, your brain changes again, and your grip on reality, if you look at it, it's like really loose in childhood. It's the strongest in midlife. And then from there, we begin to shed layers of our grip on reality. And by the time you get to that last phase, like age 88, 89 and beyond, the brain changes again. And basically it's preparing for transition back into non-physical or source energy, transitioning your soul back into a place where it doesn't really have a body. So really your energy is becoming more and more and more disconnected from this world, preparing for its final transition back into source energy. So those are the phases and the initiations, and the things that happen around your Saturn return create those ends of your childhood and beginning of this. And I think as I tell my story, all of that is going to kind of come to life a little bit more. That's why I love practical examples or stories rather than just talking about theories. But I wanted to leave you with this, and this is what Stephen Forrest, how he boils it down as far as like your Saturn return initiations. So that would be at every 29 and a half years, not just the first one. But these initiations will move through your life and they will leave you one of two things: exhausted or depressed. And those are your only options. And maybe in that sense, maybe that's where Saturn gets like its malefic. Neither of those sound like great options, right? Like exhausted, depressed, like, okay. But when you think about if those were your only two options, which one would you pick? Well, I would pick exhausted, because I've gone to bed at the end of the day exhausted because I spent my energy doing something that like truly mattered in the world. It was fulfilling on a soul level, and because it was fulfilling, I dug even deeper to put even more of my energy into it. And that's why when I lay down at the end of that day, I am purely exhausted. I have spent every ounce of my life force energy that I had access to for this time. I must rest because I gave it all. And that's what your Saturn return is asking for. And the alternate is that it's asking for everything you have. And if you don't give it, if you skip the initiation, if you find the mountain that your soul wants to climb and you look at it and go, that's pretty tall. I think I'll just have a nap instead. That's what leads to the depressed outcome. It's like you skipped climbing the mountain. You skipped showing up with all of the tools that you've gathered along your path and applying them all to the task in front of you. That's what the Saturn initiation is about, is like the first 29 and a half years, you're just exploring, you're just playing. There's no agenda, there's no rhyme or reason to all of the different things that you get up to in those first 29 and a half years. And then I know from my experience, and I think, I wonder if this is really what Saturn is getting at. It's like, it's amazing how your Saturn return initiation magically ties together like all of these random components that you could have never woven them together yourself into a coherent tapestry, and somehow the universe or whatever, maybe it was your plan all along, but it turns out it was brilliant. You've prepared for the test. You have everything that you need. And the piece that I found challenging, the part where I can see how people might get pulled into a giving up kind of place, is that there was a lot where I've never done this before. I've never experienced what I'm having to do to climb this mountain. It's like climbing a mountain with no mountain climbing experience. That's what mine felt like. And it required a level of self-trust that at the beginning of it, I did not possess. Period. And I think that that was the main part of that first initiation. It's when you go from childhood to adulthood. And what is the difference? It doesn't happen magically at 18, even though, like laws and whatnot, whatever. What changes between childhood and adulthood? I think it's the ability to trust ourselves. I think it's the ability to be self-reliant. It's the ability to face the unknown and dig within yourself rather than immediately looking for somebody to come in and help you. In childhood, we are very dependent on other beings. I mean, right from the start, that's how we're biologically, that's how it works. We intend it this way. There are mammals who come out and imagine like a colt that's born, like it's running around, independent, fully functional within the same day that it's born. That's not us. We're coming in wanting to create this connection with these other beings. And through our Saturn return, I think we shed a level of dependence. And it's like, if you don't trust yourself, if you feel like I need someone else to tell me what's right, I need someone else to help me when I come into contact with these unknown things, like that's where you can maybe get into a place of giving up. But if you're willing and able to believe in yourself, believe that you will land on your feet, believe like what I'm saying about the test that's coming, your Saturn return, that mountain that you're going to climb as part of it, you have every single tool and every single knowledge and skill that is required, because even though you're climbing a mountain with no mountain climbing experience, you've done all of the little tasks that are part of mountain climbing. Like as the example, the analogy we're going with it, we're just gonna power through. It's like you've done all the bits and pieces, and just because you've never seen yourself put all the bits and pieces together and do it all at once to like apply those skills to climbing this mountain, just because you've never witnessed it doesn't mean it's not possible. Your Saturn return is you proving to yourself that it is possible, that you are capable. And to be proving it to yourself that you're capable, you have to do something that is out of your depth. You have to stretch beyond what you've ever done before. And if you do that, it will leave you feeling exhausted at the end of it. I'm on like year 2 of resting from my Saturn return. Good times. So exhausted. There were moments where I wondered if I would ever bounce back. I was so empty of physical energy, and in the absence of physical energy, just like lethargy and depression, and like it made me extremely vulnerable energetically to be that low in terms of my physical energy, low on sleep, low on good nutrition, working all the time, on and on and on. So that put my whole system in a place where, like I said, I'm on year 2 of recovering.